Corey Sipes at Snipesdama.
And you guys are listening to Georgia Kendama Radio. Today, we're going to talk about something a little bit different. We know most of you guys are going to school, if you're in high school, middle school, or elementary school, or even college. It's about time of the season for everyone to go back to school, and everyone's been playing Kendama all summer. So we're going to talk about why people get Kendamas banned at school, and some other interesting things you might want to hear about Kendamas in school. So, I'm sure you've always thought about it. Kendama kind of looks like a weapon, in a way. It's got a spike, and it's wooden, and it looks like you could try and hurt someone with it. Usually, though, because of this isn't the reason why Kendamas are banned in schools, usually. Looking through a lot of, the news and everything like that, usually it seems like Kendamas are banned because of what people are doing with it, not just because of what it looks like. Because inherently, I don't think a ball in a cup looks particularly dangerous.
No, but there's just certain things that you shouldn't do in certain settings that make it look dangerous, and to teachers and, adults, it's just, they're liable for your health, your safety, and to them, it's important to make sure that you don't get hurt.
That being said, the number one reason, looking through everything, the number one reason why Kendamas are banned in school is because of gambling. Most schools in the United States follow a similar handbook, and they all say you cannot be gambling in school. So what do I mean by that? Obviously, kids aren't getting $100, bringing it to school, and playing games of Ken. No, what they're doing is games of Death Ken.
If you don't know what Death Ken is, it's basically when two players decide amongst themselves that they're both going to put their Kendamas on the line in a game of Ken, and the winner gets to take it all, basically. And that's the reason why most of the time that Kendamas become banned, because it comes down to a gambling issue, and ultimately someone crying about losing their Kendama and not being able to play with it anymore.
So that being said, it's not the fault really of the person who cried to the administration or their parents about it. It's both of their faults. It's the fault of kids playing the game to gamble their Kendamas. So if you are at a school where Kendama is not banned, which you likely are, it's not that many schools where this is the issue. But if you are at a place where or a school rather, where you can play Kendama, just don't play Death Ken. That's the biggest thing that has ever gotten the Kendama banned in any school.
Here's the thing, guys. You shouldn't be playing Death Ken anyway, because I can't imagine only having one or two Kendamas, because I understand that you're in school. You probably don't have that much money since you probably don't have a job, and if you do, then good for you. But for the kids that don't, well, getting a Kendama is kind of more difficult for them, and to just take away their Kendama is really cruel, to be honest. And it just, there's no spirit in Kendama with that. Don't you want people to play with?
Yeah. If you eliminate someone, if they only have one Kendama, especially for younger students elementary or middle school, they're likely not to have more than one. And if you eliminate them, then who are you going to play Kendama with anyways? Yeah, you can say it's just one person, but still, that's still making less people. And at the end of the day, I feel like deep down, everyone kind of feels bad about it anyways.
Yeah.
So even outside of the school setting, Death Ken is just not a good thing to do. Gambling is its own thing, but Death Ken itself, it just makes it so that people who want to play Kendama can't play Kendama. And even if it's technically it's your fault for putting it online, but at the same time, you want to keep playing Kendama after that, and you can't just go tell your parents, oh, he stole it from me. And then that gets a whole another thing of oh, these kids they're saying they're stealing things, and I don't want my kid to hang out with them. So, Death Ken, obviously, that's the number one thing that schools will ban Kendama for. But then the next thing is for people or kids or whoever using the Kendama to actually hurt someone. So we mentioned before how it kind of looks like it could hurt someone, it has a spike and everything like that, and a ball they can swing around. But that would be the next thing for sure, is when you look through the news articles, kid gets bruised from fight using wooden Japanese toy.
Yeah. Here's the thing, guys. Just don't be stupid with it. And not to hurt anybody. I feel like that's an inherent thought Like, just don't hurt anybody. And the other issue is don't do string tricks, spacewalk tricks near anybody else, near any windows, near anything that can break. Be smart about where you're playing kendama and how you're playing your kendama. For example, when I was in high school, the best place to go play kendama was out in the courtyard during lunch. We got 30 minutes of lunch, 30 minutes of going out to the courtyard. And at that point, I could find a corner where there were no windows, nobody near me, and I could just do as many spacewalks as I wanted, as many flow tricks as I wanted, and I didn't have to worry about hitting anybody. And I don't think any teachers particularly cared about it either because I was being smart about it, and they could tell.
Yeah, it's because it looks kind of dangerous, especially when you start flailing around in a spacewalk, and especially if you're a new player that doesn't really know how to do spacewalks very well, the likeliness that it's gonna get out of your hands is higher. So that, it might not have even been that you were fighting with the kendama. It might have been that you were trying to do a spacewalk and you hit another kid and the kid got mad and then he tried to fight you. Things like that. Like, you need to be very conscious about it, even outside of school. But if you don't want to get kendama banned in school for you, now that school's back in session, that's another thing you can't do is play kendama where really it shouldn't be played. Just, like, take a mental note, look around, think about how many people are around you, and, like, the urge to play all the time is always there. Like, I always want to, regardless of whether I'm in the line for, like, at Kroger, at, any grocery store, or if I'm in line at Six Flags for a roller coaster, or if I'm just waiting on anything, I always want to play my kendama. But you have to, especially in school, you have to realize that schools can very easily take it away for any reason that they want. So you really have to think about it. Otherwise, you're going to be that kid that got kendama banned for the school.
Right. Yeah, I know personally from my high school, all those reasons weren't the reasons why it got banned. The reason why was because it was such a distraction.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone in my school was playing it, and it got to the point where when the teacher was trying to get down and do a lesson, trying to teach what you're there to do, everyone was trying to play kendama, and at that point, it became such a problem that they decided to just take them away from everybody. So, know the right times to play kendama, and, if there's a time during lunch, you can do it. If there's, downtime in between classes, go ahead and do it if you want to. Just make sure that you're in a safe spot, and it's a good time to do so, and you're not going to be distracting anybody. You're not going to be doing it during class time when it's important. If you have a teacher that says, hey, there's 5 minutes of downtime at the end of class, and if you want to play kendama or do whatever, work on schoolwork, go ahead and bring it out as long as it's okay with the teacher. Just don't be the reason why it gets banned from your school, because you don't want people to not like you for it, and also you don't want to not play kendama because obviously you like doing it.
Obviously, school is a place where you're supposed to be learning, which, as boring as it sounds, that's the truth. But you can always check with your teachers and just say, hey, is it okay if I do this at the end of class or before class starts? Is it okay if I do it in here? Just check with the teachers, because, not only is there, like, the total school chapter, the handbook, but each individual teacher, they're going to have their own personality, they're going to have their own thoughts on it. So don't just go into class, especially these first couple weeks, assuming that you can do it at the first 5 or last 5 minutes of class. Definitely check with teachers, because the more that the teachers get aggravated about it, the more they're going to see it as a distraction, whether it is or whether it's not.
Yeah.
It might not actually be distracting any lesson plans, but if a teacher is deciding that they don't like it, they can easily make that up, because technically the whole time you're in that class is learning time. So if there's anything going on that they say is not learning time, they have the right to say, hey, I don't want this in my classroom. And maybe it becomes just their classroom, but it could very easily become more than that.
On the flip side, there may be a teacher that encourages it, and maybe they find it really interesting and cool, and maybe they even get into it themselves. At this point in time, honestly, that's a good time to talk to them about maybe setting up a club, trying to set up a friendly ecosystem where after school you can play kendama, have a little hangout, just have a cool zone to play kendama at school, and at this point, and then that'll actually help set the boundaries for what you can and can't do at school, because then you have a club and there's certain rules to follow by, and it makes it a whole lot less sketchy if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, if you want to play kendama at school, I mean, the best thing you can do is I'm sure you would be nervous after hearing all this, like schools can ban kendama. The easiest thing to do is just ask the lunch monitor or someone like, "Hey, can I do this here, or when should I do this?" Just ask them blatantly, and they'll tell you. And if they don't want to see it at all, you'll know. That way, they're not just gonna ban it. And if they allow it in a certain space, that way you know, okay, cool, I can do it here, and you can be way more comfortable, not constantly worry about, oh, is a teacher coming around, and are they gonna be mean to me, or are they gonna say that I shouldn't do that? Just asking, it's the easiest thing you can do. And so, like what Corey's saying about the clubs, so let's say that kendama is banned in your school. There's still things you can do so you can play kendama in that atmosphere, not necessarily during school hours, but you can ask someone in the administration, like a teacher you might like, if you can set up some kind of after-school program or after-school kendama club. Those are totally different than technically school hours, and while it depends on how a school implements a ban for the kendamas, I know personally in Cherokee County of a school, I forget which one it was, unfortunately, they banned kendamas at that school, but I think it was a middle school, I'm trying to remember the name, but this middle school had banned kendamas, but a kid in the Georgia Kendama group actually had, I don't know if it was an event open to everybody, but they did have a kendama event at that school, which is super cool. So it was banned, but because this kid and probably the parent went through the administration and asked him, like, hey, is it okay if we do this and just give us guidelines? Then they were able to do it. So that being said, like, if you want to play kendama around your friends at school, you can totally do that. You just have to ask someone, even if it's banned there. It's possible.
The best thing to do is just make sure that you have guidelines to go by, and the teachers will feel a lot more safe with it, and it makes everyone a little bit less nervous, because I know that as a student you're nervous because it might be banned or it is already banned, and as a teacher they're liable and just a whole bunch of other stuff. So if both parties are happy, then that's the best way to go about playing kendama at your school.
Yeah, you just really have to think about it from both sides. Think about it as you, the kendama player who doesn't want kendama to get banned, and think about it from the administration or teacher side, where they don't want anyone to get hurt or anyone's feelings to get hurt. If you think about it from both sides like that, you'll probably do all the right things with kendama, so you will have a lot less to worry about. But sometimes people don't always think, so sometimes you might have to think for them. School is an interesting atmosphere. There's tons of people with all kinds of different personalities, we'll say. So you really just have to be proactive with that. So make a kendama club or do an after-school program. They're really fun, and the great thing about an after-school or a kendama club is that not only does that become like a place where you know you are safe to play kendama, but it's very likely that you are going to progress a whole lot more doing that than with just like playing randomly during school. You'll be playing with people that you know are progressing, and you'll want to be progressing right next to them. It's much easier to do games that way. So there's lots of cool games you can do at school, such as like larger games at Ken.
Yeah.
You can do games of follow, you can do chain game, you can do unicorn, you can do all that stuff. A lot of those games kind of require more space and stuff like that. So when you have a club, you can do all those fun games that you might do at a Georgia Kendama jam, or, you know, a local jam depending on where you're living.
And also the cool thing about having a club is, you know, I know some schools have done it, like, for example, Woodstock High School, where at one point they were big enough to have companies come out and send out damas and prizes to do for bigger events, and it just makes it a whole lot easier, just having an ecosystem where a bunch of people play. It helps you get better, like Nick said, and just having some friendly competition is always good, I think.
Yeah, that's a good point, too, is that you can, if you have an established kendama club or a kendama after-school program at your school already, you might, if you already have kids that have a kendama, that's awesome, but you can actually like tell your administration, your teacher, whoever is helping it, and ask them like, hey, can we talk to a local company or talk to a company about getting kendamas here so people that might not have one can play with one, or even doing prizes depending on the budget, because schools have budgets for after school programs, and that doesn't just mean like soccer or basketball or football. They have budgets for all kinds of clubs. You can probably think of some clubs at your high school or middle school right now that it's kind of weird, but they do get funding from the school. So that being said, you can definitely like have fun events where people get prizes, or you can just get more like products or kendamas into the school. That way it's a lot more inclusive, and it's not just the 10 people maybe that want to be in the club that come. It's they come, and then they bring a friend who doesn't have kendama, and they might only have one kendama themselves, but they have a kendama to play with. That's an awesome way to make more friends, because everyone wants to make friends in school. Sometimes it's hard, and that's a great way to do it, and just to make kendama bigger in general.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's really good to have everyone on board with the whole kendama thing. To sum up, and just making sure that you're following everything strictly, like following the rules, and
so
just doing everything correctly.
So just to recap, guys, basically, don't get kendama banned from your school. So don't play games of Deathken. Don't flail it around where it shouldn't be flailed. Don't try and hurt anybody with it. And just be aware of both sides. So be aware of the teachers and be aware of you as a kendama player. And just think about it all the time. Make sure that you're doing it in the right places. And if it is banned, there's still options for you to play kendama around school. You just have to ask somebody. Nobody's going to be upset about you asking to do something that can be beneficial to them, to the school, or to students. So if you can do that, you're going to have a lot more fun with kendama now that the school year is here. From both of us, good luck this school year, guys.
Yeah.
We hope that everything goes well with your grades, and we hope that you get some people into kendama this semester or next semester, because kendamas really blow up in schools, and that's kind of how we get into these problems, but it makes it really fun and makes you talk to people you would never really talk to. So have a good year, guys, with that. Thank you, everybody that's been listening to our podcast. We're really enjoying making them. We're always trying to think of new things. If you have any suggestions for stuff you'd like to hear, people you'd like to hear on the podcast, especially local Georgia people, let us know. Hit us up in a comment. We're going to put this up on YouTube, and we love hearing what you guys have to say about it. Let us know what you want to see. If you don't like something from this podcast, let us know. If you do like something, let us know. Just talk to us. We like talking to you guys. We have plenty of free time for that sometimes. So just hit us up. So again, thank you guys so much for listening. I'm Nick at Nick Drummer 20.
My name is Corey Sipes at Snipes Dama.
And this has been Georgia Kendama Radio.